Welcome everyone to the very first video for the new Ark Survival Evolved Scorched Earth DLC. I'm planning on making a few of these videos to give you a rundown on some of the basics of what's in the DLC and some tips and tricks on things to do, things not to do, and basically give you some idea of how this works as opposed to the general Ark Survival Evolved island map. We're going to start off our first video with a general overview. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is spawn. Now, obviously, whenever you spawn into the game, you're going to have to pick a location. Let's bring up the map. And you'll notice on my map at the very top, there's parts of the north, northeast, and west that I've not gone to yet, but those places you definitely don't want to spawn anyway. Whenever you first start out, for the most part, you're going to want to start in the southeast, which is toward the bottom right-hand corner of this map. Now, you can notice immediately where I'm at. This is a very good area to spawn in. You can spawn in here in South Region 1. You can also use South Region 3. It's not quite as safe, although I believe it is still labeled as easy. But it's not too bad either. So stick to the south and you should be fine. Now, another thing I want to draw your attention to on here is that you'll notice that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of water around. We're going to get into that more a little bit later. But rest assured, there's plenty of water on the map. It's just a matter of basically don't freak out whenever you first spawn in. You're going to die probably multiple times. Because this map, even though it's fairly safe in the south region, specifically where I am right now, you're still going to find your general creatures just like you would on the island. You're still going to find raptors and things like that early on that can and will kill you when you're low level, particularly before you get any type of armor or serious weapons other than maybe a spear. So don't worry about that. Don't get too frustrated. You're probably also very likely to dehydrate and die for your first few times as well. Again, don't worry about it. You'll get the hang of it. And once you get the hang of it, you'll know exactly where to go and what to do. So it will no longer become as serious a problem. So you see here the location on my map toward the bottom right-hand corner of the map, but also far enough toward the center of the map that it makes it fairly easy for me to get around. And let's take a look at put the map away and take a look at the GPS coordinates here. Where I'm located is at 64.8 and 51.1. So that's 64.8 latitude and 51.1 longitude on your map. Now to me that's nice information to know, but it really doesn't get me anywhere unless I know where it's at on the map. Because visually the map is much easier for me to use. Now in this particular episode, we're not going to be flying around looking at a whole lot of different areas about where the cool stuff is and all that kind of thing. We're just trying to keep you alive and let you get started in the game. Now, I also want you to know, secondly, that there are some weather events that you're going to want to pay attention to in the game. Now, we all know that you do the same basic things whenever you start up in this survival aspect. You go punch a tree, you gather rocks, you gather some berries for food. You try to get, the necessities to get you started out. You're going to want to try to get some shelter, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes as well. But I want to deal with some weather events. There are a few things that you're going to need to worry about. First is heat exhaustion. It is hot. Depending on where you spawn in the map and depending on the different days, I've seen a lot of variation here. Now, I'm going to tab to bring up the display on my character. You can notice toward the top right, I'm a level 84 right now. I do have some armor, and it shows my hypo and hyperthermal insulation. And it shows that I'm in South 3, which again is very close to South 1. So don't worry too much if you're in one or the other. They're extremely close to one another, so not a big deal. But you'll notice that right now it's 66 degrees. It's also later in the afternoon. Now, it can be anywhere from mid-60s, which is perfectly pleasant if it weren't for all the things trying to kill you around here. And it can also go up into, on a normal basis, around 110, 115 degrees. Now, the higher it gets, the more you're going to need your armor. You can see right here I've got the desert cloth armor. Again, we'll get into that as well. But the first thing you're going to get, of course, is cloth armor. And you're going to want to get that as soon as you can, just so you can have some sort of protection from the elements. Now, if you happen to be outside when it's 110, 115 degrees or something at the very beginning, you're going to start to suffer from heat exhaustion and get very close to heat stroke. And what that's going to do, in addition to taking away your health and eventually killing you if you can't get inside a shelter that will take you away from the elements and shelter you from them, what it's going to do to you is it's going to make your vision get very blurry. Unfortunately, I don't have any video of this, but again, this is something that's most likely going to happen to you when you first spawn in your first hour or so of the game. You're going to get heat exhaustion, and everything is going to start to get blurry, and it's going to be very hard to navigate your way around, and you're going to eventually die from it. Again, the sooner you can get some sort of armor and shelter, the better off you're going to be. Another thing that will happen is an electrical storm. Now, these aren't really such a big deal at the very beginning of a game for you, because an electrical storm, in addition to really making it hard to navigate and taking away a lot of your vision, the biggest thing it does is it stops all your electrical devices. So if you're running a generator that's powering lights and air conditioners and all that kind of stuff, then it's going to turn those off. Okay, so it's not a huge deal unless you're depending upon things like air conditioners to keep you cool and keep you from losing health. So electrical storms are probably your least worry, particularly at the beginning of a game. The biggest problem you're going to have is if you happen to be outside during a dust storm. Now, a dust storm is definitely no joke in Scorched Earth, because during a dust storm, your visibility will get down to near zero. You'll be able to see, like you notice, as an example, here in front of me, you can see a small little rock formation here, a little platform. Well, that would maybe as far as you can see in front of you or around you during a dust storm. You'll notice here in the top right, I have on desert goggles. These are to help you with vision during a dust storm, but basically it keeps the sand out of your eyes. So those are imperative, but you're not going to have access to those early on. So during a dust storm, be inside. That's why one of the quickest things you want to do, two things. You want to find some sort of armor, which at the beginning will be cloth armor. And then you want to get some sort of a shelter until you can get to the desert cloth. Now, the other thing you're going to want to do is let's talk about the different types of clothing. You know about cloth armor from the base game. It's no different here. It has your basic stuff, and it's crafted the exact same way. Now, that's a little different when you're talking about the desert cloth. And for that, we're going to walk inside to the smithy, because that's where this is crafted. Now, let's bring up just the cloth armor. Now, you'll have a shirt here. You'll have pants, the goggles and hat, which come as a combo, gloves, and boots. So again, the same basic design as your normal equipment. However, the difference is for the desert items, you're going to need hide and fiber as you're used to, but you're also going to need silk. And you'll find that each one of these needs silk, and then you're going to have the exception of the goggles and hat, which also need crystal and pearls, which at the very beginning are going to be difficult for you to find, but rest assured, you're going to be okay. It's not going to be that big a deal. Now, so where do you find this mysterious silk? Well, there are some flying creatures that you can find. They're basically moths that will give you this if you kill them, but it's so much easier than that. Really, all you need is this. These flowers will give you silk. You'll notice you'll get in varying amounts right there. I got 3 silk. So basically, just spam some of these, and you're going to be perfectly fine. Now, so that's going to give you access once you get to the smithy, and then you can unlock the desert armor So it's not that big a deal once you can get to it. They're very easy to craft. You're just going to want to make sure that you do it as soon as you can. All right, I wanted to pause the video just for a moment so that we could wait till we got some sunlight back outside. All right, let's talk about housing and what kind of shelter you're going to want to get. Now, what you see here that I've built is an example of the Adobe structures. Your first option, just like on the main island map, is thatch. And you can build a simple thatch foundation. That'll help you out at the very beginning. But I do want to warn you that you're going to want to get to Adobe as quick as possible. And the reason is simple. It provides you the best insulation from the heat. You do not want to build from wood or anything stronger than that unless you're getting into PvP, which is a whole different ball game than what I'm dealing with here. But if at all possible, get to Adobe structures as soon as you can, because that's what's actually going to keep you protected from the heat. In fact, building a wood structure will actually make the heat worse. So you'll find that you're hotter and losing health and stamina and water and so on quicker inside a heated structure than you would if you were just simply outside. So you're going to want to get to Adobe as quick as you can. To show you an example of this, you'll notice where the cursor is toward the right-hand side of the screen, hyperthermal insulation is currently at 271, and that's with all of the desert on. So we go from 271. I'm going to open up and go inside, and just by being inside the enclosed structure, that number goes from 271 to 664. So you can see it is a huge advantage to be inside an Adobe structure. Now, obviously, it doesn't need to be this big. This is just something I was playing around with to have multiple levels and then also have a gate so that I could bring some of the dinos inside should I need to. Now, that gate's not, it's actually the smallest gate, but I was only planning on bringing some of the smallest resource gathering dinos in anyway. So that will take care of housing. Again, get to Adobe as quick as you can. I've not tried metal or anything. This is a single player server, so it's not really a big deal for me. I'm not worried about getting attacked or anything, even by other dinos. So the next thing I want to talk about is water. How do you get water? Now, let's start off by seeing right over here, I've got a well. And you'll notice that it shows it's got 1,000 out of 1,000 water. And I can walk right up to it, and I can drink from it, and everything is perfectly fine. But this isn't the only place to find water. And the easiest way to show you some other places to find water is on our ever-present RG. But first, let's look on the map. If you'll notice just to the right of where we're located, you'll see some greenish blue dots on the map. That's water. And those are the easiest sources of water to find because they show up on the map. However, they're not the only sources of water. As you're traveling around, you'll see these little nodes of water, these little outcrops of water. And if you'll look directly in front of me, here's an example of one. So right here, we come down, and you'll find these throughout the desert regions. And these are areas where you can get water. So you simply walk up to it and drink water from it. Now, sometimes you might see either the dire wolves or the saber-tooths, something like that around. So do be careful about these things instead of just running over to them. Now, another access to water that you'll notice these crazy-looking bugs. Now, these bugs, this is an oil jug bug, and you can just walk up behind him, and you'll notice the E pops up. And, well, of course, it's not going to work since I want it to. And there you go. You press E, and it gets oil from him. You can see that added 16 oil. I've got some of the resource rates pumped up on here so that it doesn't take me as long. But you can see you get oil from that. Now, here is a water jug. So the blue, you simply go up to it, and you can take water from it. And as soon as you do that, by the way, if I can get it to work, these can be kind of finicky. There you go. As soon as you take some away, they'll fly away, and go refill. And so whenever you see them walking on the ground, they're pretty easy targets. Now you can't tame these, and there's no reason to kill them because they're easy access to water. So water is really not all that difficult to find. But of course, in this game, there's more to it than just that. Okay, so you're going to need access to, we've already seen in order to craft the goggles, we're going to need crystal and we're going to need some silica pearls. But then, of course, we also know that eventually we're going to need, let's go ahead and level this guy up so that will go away. All right, so we also know we're going to need metal. And of course, you know, you're going to need metal in large supplies. So where can you find metal? Well, that's another reason why I wanted to be in this area. Okay, I'm by the red obelisk, which makes it very easy to find, not just on a map, but as you're moving around, move toward the red obelisk, and you can see I'm not that far away. So that's an easy marker for me. So first of all, let's tackle metal. Where would I find metal around here? Well, we're near some mountains, so let's just fly right over. And we'll notice that right here immediately, right in front of me, there's a metal node. And as we fly further in deeper to into this area, you'll see another metal node right there on our left. And then you can go right here, and I'll show you what's over there in just a second, but you can see if we stay left and just head up here, there's some more metal. So there's some pretty easy access to metal immediately. Now, if we take the right, then we're going to get into another path and a lot more metal up there, and there's actually a path that heads up into the mountain. But rest assured, you're going to find a lot of carnos and scorpions and so forth in there. But even just starting out, you can notice that there's probably not going to be much more than a raptor or something hanging out in here. Every once in a while a carno will spawn this far out. There's some more metal right there. So you're fine. Now, so where in the world do you find silica pearls in an area that has very little water, and what water you do find is more or less in puddles? You know, you don't find deep oceans, anything like that. Well, as you can see behind me, okay, there's where we built. And now I'm going to head toward the red obelisk. Now, the way you're actually going to get to the red obelisk on ground, if you don't have access to a flyer yet, because as far as I know, there are no pterodons on this map, so RGs are probably out of reach for a little while into the game. So you're simply going to come down this hill, and there is an opening down here at the bottom. Now, I'll let you know ahead of time, this is not something you're going to want to do at the very beginning. You're going to want to wait until you've gotten some metal and you've gotten some armor and gotten either a sword or at least a pike and that kind of thing. Probably some other tames as well, because you will find some sabers and dire wolves and carnos and that type of thing. Now, once you get in here into the area immediately around, all right, so we're here at the red obelisk. All right, you'll notice that there's plenty of water here, and some people might choose to say, hey, I'm just going to go right here, and I'm going to build somewhere around here. I actually don't know how close to the obelisk you can build, but you'll notice that around here, you see on the screen there's a raptor over there, and again, you're going to find there's a scorpion there, but they're generally fairly manageable in this area. Now, the farther you get away from the obelisk, the more that's going to change. And right around this area is where you're going to find silica pearls. They're just laying on the ground. And of course, you'll find some down inside the water. I've already picked up probably most of them around this area, but basically they're just going to be laying on the ground in and around the obelisk here. So be on the lookout for those. Now, another thing you're going to need is, of course, crystal, and then you're at some point going to need obsidian, and so on. Now, if I'm going to let you know there is a cave around here. So if you're not interested in knowing, being spoiled to where the location of that cave is, I'm going to give you a chance to skip on through now, because I'm about to show you where the cave is. Okay, so with that spoiler warning out of the way, I'm going to let you know that there is a cave right here. And if you'll notice, right at the mouth of this cave, and this cave goes all the way through the mountain, actually I believe comes out on the other side. But you can see inside that cave, you're going to find plenty of crystal, and also you can see there's obsidian there as well. So that is huge. And it's not that far from where our base is currently. Again, I would advise you bring some tames with you. You might want to tame something as quickly as possible to get you here. If nothing else, just tame a raptor and pump up speed and weight. That will get you here. Because you can see there are some things around here that will definitely mean you harm. So I think we're going to call it quits here for our first video. I just wanted to let you guys know that the south, while it is probably the easiest place to spawn in the game, also has an abundance of resources nearby. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more Ark Survival Evolved Scorched Earth videos.